The final score, Wrexham 2, Bromley 1. And to be honest, this is the closest we've come, I reckon, to dropping points at home this season. It's the least fluent performance we had at home this season. And I think it'll go down as one of the best performances of this season. Certainly the best results. I was worried about this match because Wrexham, coming off the emotional and physical draining experience of Saturday and that fabulous win at Coventry, just felt like it was a game that was being played a little bit too soon for my liking. And Bromley are exactly the sort of opposition that would cause you a problem, I think, in those circumstances. Extremely well organised, extremely physical. They have a habit already of raining in our parade. And yeah, this was a tricky one, I thought, for Wrexham to manoeuvre. And the first half certainly came out as I feared. So very, very happy to see us end up with the 3 points. And huge credit to Phil Parkinson for the brave substitution he made with 20 minutes left, which essentially won the game. But anyway, let's get back to the start of matters. There was a real danger the game would have been called off anyway because the pitch took a terrific hammering from the rain. It did go ahead, and Wrexham, well, were able to rotate a little bit, of course, since the Coventry match. Sam Dalby was rested, Ollie Palmer came in. Likewise, on the right, Anthony Ford replaced Reece Hall-Johnson. And there was good news in terms of Aaron Hayden, who was fit enough to start. So Wrexham shifting it around a bit, but Bromley had a very clear game plan, and they executed it terrifically well. They had a high back line, which they were able to get away with because they pressed really well in Wrexham's half. Wrexham found it difficult to pass their way out from the back, and as a result, the congested midfield was a problem for us. There were also a lot of heavy tackles. Now, I know that Andy Woodman, the Bromley manager, complained bitterly about the referee Lewis Smith after the game. I can't see what grounds he's got, to be honest with you. I think that he had a good game, the ref. I've seen some Wrexham fans criticising him too, but I thought he did well. And with the exception of he could have booked more Bromley players for time wasting. In all honesty, I think there were a few decisions that went Bromley's way, which meant they finished with 11 men, because like I said, the tackling was harsh from the start. Kellen Fisher, in as early as the 3rd minute, going in hard and over the ball and following through with the studs up with a lot of strength into McFadden's ankle. The ref booked him. I think it's a cast iron red, I've got to be honest. It's a poor challenge, and there was force behind it. There would be other challenges later on, but not least Byron Webster's hack from behind on Palmer on the halfway line. But Bromley's physical play and good organisation meant that they were causing Wrexham problems. Only Dennis had the first chance, driving forwards and drilling a shot from about 25 yards. It was going just wide of the left post, but Mark Howard didn't want to take any chances. He lunged across, and as the ball skipped at him, had a good strong top hand to push it round the post. That corner led to a bit of a scramble. The ball bouncing around before eventually Hayden lunged and poked the ball behind for another corner. Bromley were complaining because Sowumney had his shirt pulled to the extent that it became quite a nice off-the-shoulder number. It's completely ripped off one shoulder. They complained vehemently, and Sowumney, ironically, then couldn't be on the pitch for the subsequent corner, which came to nothing because he had to come off and get his shirt changed. I've got to say, though, having looked at the incident, doesn't look like there's an awful lot going on. They may need to talk to their shirt manufacturers. They may have got a dodgy product there. Hayden had hold of his shirt, I think, definitely at the chest, at the front of his chest, but didn't seem to tug him away. In fact, somebody never really tried to get past Hayden, and was busy complaining about the shirt pull. When the ball dropped in front of him, he would have had a real chance to score, but he wasn't looking at the ball, and Hayden was able to poke it away. So, play to the whistle, I would say. But, like I said, Bromley were on top. Wrexham were really struggling to get their pass and rhythm going. They weren't gambling on balls over the top particularly, and as a result, they were knocking it around and just getting a bit slowed down. The pace was slow. Tactical fouls slowed it down. Halfway through the half, Wrexham nearly had a horrible self-inflicted wound when Tozer received a short goal kick, trying to find O'Connor about 25 yards out from his own goal. It's a pass that sold O'Connor badly short, and Cheek was able to nick it off him. Tozer, though, made amends with a really good block as Cheek shot from the edge of the area. Within a couple of minutes, Wrexham had their first opportunity, and it was a decent one as well. Tozer's throw-ins again caused problems. This time he hurled it into the near post, right onto Tunnicliffe's head. He helped it on, and the ball ricochets to Palmer. It was a difficult chance for him, but stretching about 8 yards out, he couldn't control his shot and put it over the bar. 10 minutes later, though, with 12 minutes left of the half, just when Wrexham was starting to get a bit of rhythm and starting to threaten to get on top of Bromley, the visitors scored. Corey Whiteley, who was a constant thorn in Wrexham's side whenever we played Bromley, breaking forwards. Dennis had the ball on the left-hand side, managed to get in behind Hayden, pulled in a cross, which might have taken a nick off Tozer, and Whiteley, it was an ungainly finish from about 7 yards out, but he stretched and poked it into the bottom right corner. Howard had no chance, and Whiteley had scored remarkably, although he was playing a bit deeper than I've seen him play before, his first league goal of the season. Wrexham were taken aback and were nearly caught out again soon afterwards. A long kick by the goalkeeper Rhys Charles Cook. Cheek did well backing into Hayden to nod it down, and there was Whiteley again looking to double up and get 2 in 4 minutes, having not scored in the first half of the season, but he pulled this one wide from about 20 yards. Wrexham needed a response, and they started to find it and started to build up pressure late on in the half. A long throw again by Tozer, Hayden rising brilliantly and flicking a looping header towards goal. It might have been going in, it might have been hitting the bar. Charles Clark got himself a bit underneath it, and so had to stretch and make a rather acrobatic tip over the bar. He could maybe have done better with it, and he would be punished, because when the corner came in from O'Connor on the right-hand side, the ball again bobbled around. It was a poor piece of keeping, in all honesty, by the goalkeeper, who pushed the ball off. It looks to me like keeper's ball. It was an in-swinger towards the near post, and nobody got to it. But the keeper, Charles Cook, just leaned forwards and, in a rather ugly manner, pushed it into the danger area. Tunnicliffe was already on the floor, having seemingly had his shirt pulled as he was trying to run in when the ball was in the air. As he got up, Michael Cheek swung a boot at it and connected with Tunnicliffe's head. Tunnicliffe, his knees were bent, but he certainly wasn't crouching down, and the referee had no hesitation in giving the penalty. Maybe it should have been a red. I mean, let's be honest here. It's about endangering an opponent. We definitely kicked Tunnicliffe in the head, and intent doesn't tend to count. I'm just thinking of Sadio Mane kicking Ederson's head a few seasons ago. I mean, he definitely didn't mean it, but it was definitely a red card. Or Antoine Griezmann, if you remember, the Champions League game against Liverpool, kicked a player in the head. I can't remember who it was, and clearly didn't mean it, but didn't argue about the red card he got, because when you kick a bloke in the head, that's dangerous. Anyway, it was given. No card for Cheek, and Mullen, after a very long delay, stepped up and just went for power and smashed it into the roof of the net. A heck of a forthright finish to pull the game level. Immediately, Bromley burst into the Wrexham penalty area, and they had a shout for a penalty. Cheek getting goal side of Tunnicliffe and hitting the deck as he ran in behind him. The referee said no, rightly. Firstly, because it was outside the box, he gave a free kick, and having seen the replay, yeah, it's a good foot outside the box. It's got to be said as well, I'm not too sure Tunnicliffe actually made contact with Cheek. Anyway, the free kick came to nothing, and it was half-time. Wrexham were hugely improved after the break. You just wonder whether Bromley's intensity faded a little bit. They weren't getting at us in our own half as much. They weren't able to maintain that press, and the pattern of the second half, at least until Wrexham went ahead, was Wrexham moving the ball around well in a Bromley half and threatening. There was a lovely move down the right-hand side early in the half. Ford popping it inside to Young, who did a great little hooked pass round the corner to complete the 1-2. Ford pulling a great cross into Mullen, who's from about 10 yards out. Probably will feel he should have done better, put it quite a distance over the bar. I think it sort of arrived at him at speed in mid-stride, and he just couldn't get on top of the ball. But Wrexham maintained the pressure. They had a big shout for handball, although I think, to be fair, I think it hit a hand, but it wasn't deliberate, I don't think. Then It was Hayden slotting a lovely little pass down the right channel to send Palmer away. He drove the ball into the goal mouth, and Charles Cook, lunging, managed to push the ball away as Mullin was lurking for a back post tap-in. So much better from Wrexham, better tempo, better pressure, much more possession. But with 19 minutes left, it's still 1-1. And ironically, we were talking in the commentary about whether we should make changes, and I was a conservative with a small c, I hasten to add, saying, no, we're on top. Let's keep it as it is, keep being on top, and see if we can nick something. Good job I'm not Wrexham's manager, innit? Phil Parkinson, on the other hand, had the attitude of a draw is not enough, I must do something to make sure it isn't. And so he made a very bold substitution, bringing off Jordan Tunnicliffe and replacing him with Sam Dalby. So he went to 4 at the back, also bringing off O'Connor, who had anchored midfield perfectly well, and bringing on James Jones. And the duo would galvanise Wrexham and earn the win. Indeed, within 3 minutes, Jones had scored a winning goal. A long throw again by Tozer, which Bromley couldn't get rid of properly. And this is another beauty of using Tozer's long throw. We didn't make a chance directly from it, but Bromley just couldn't get it away. We encircled them in the penalty area and just kept recirculating and working balls in. Eventually a cross came in from the opposite side of Tozer's throw-in. It was cleared, but only as far as James Jones, who latched onto it and hit a powerful left foot shot. It took a big deflection off Swumney, which sent Charles Cook the wrong way. But Jones gets credit for the fact that he brought it down well and drilled it in flat and gave the ball every chance to be deflected past the keeper if it didn't just go directly in. So good stuff from Wrexham, and there would be more chances. Palmer breaking down a left this time and cutting into the box, drilling it into the goal mouth. Mullin just beaten to it. But Wrexham now had a very bold formation. Palmer and Dalby up front, Mullin tucked in just behind, Elliot Lee in a midfield 3, and it was very attacking. Maybe too attacking, because Bromley started to gain the initiative back with about 10 minutes left and started to threaten. Cheek feeding Crowhouse, the young substitute, who went in the box and went down under pressure from Luke Young. I've got to be frank and say that at the time, I thought, I think the refs are going to point to the spot here. Having seen the replay, it's not a penalty. Crowhouse isn't very strong, maybe looks to initiate the contact. Young does give him a decent sort of barge with his shoulder. I think it's in the legal side of the law, but it was a hairy moment for Wrexham. There'd be another one within a minute for Young as well, as Forster, a tricky winger who'd been brought on late on, cut inside Young. Young stuck a leg out, took the yellow card and tripped him. Bromley again complained it was inside the box. Again, it definitely wasn't, and the free kick didn't come to anything. Wrexham was still looking good on the break, though, with so many attacking players. We ought to, of course. Mullin, for the second time in the match, sprinted back into his own half, and this time made a brilliant tackle, finding Lee. Lee pinged a lovely ball over the top, and Dalby, driving in on goal down the left channel, drove in a shot, which was well saved by the goalkeeper. In the last minute, Wrexham brought Mullin off, bringing McAlinden on just to add a little bit more conservatism to the midfield. But straight away, Bromley came up with their last chance of the match. A free kick in midfield, lofted to the far post. Callum Reynolds, a centre-back, losing his man from a tight angle, stretched and put the header back across the face of goal. Nobody could get there in order to profit. And in the second minute of added time, Wrexham nearly made it safe. Dalby this time sliding a good ball into Palmer, running through on the left channel. He was well offside, but the linesman didn't have the best of games, kept his flag down. Charles Cook did well to stand up, and Palmer's driven shot was blocked by the feet of the goalkeeper. So, a big 2-1 win, because quite frankly, it was a tough match. Bromley lived up to their billing, and Wrexham had to show character as well as quality to get through, plus the tactical nous of Phil Parkinson, of course, which was decisive. Going through the performances, Mark Howard had nothing to do, really, as such. No difficult saves to make, couldn't be blamed with the goal. The central defenders, Tozer, man of the match, was excellent, was decisive, made a few good interceptions. He kept trying to get on the front foot and nick the ball away from Cheek and did it successfully. His throws, again, were a major weapon, and his distribution was good as always. The centre-backs either side of him, Hayden coming back from injury, you've seen him look more colossal, but he certainly was consistent and strong and carried the ball forwards well on occasions. He also made that crucial interception at the start to poke that corner behind. The other centre-back, Jordan Tunnicliffe, was sacrificed for tactical reasons, but he also was stolid. His usual self. It was a bit of a surprise to see him get caught with cheek going goal side of him shortly after Tunnicliffe had won the penalty. Maybe that kick in the head had briefly confused him. The wing-backs, Ford was excellent. Ford really did well. Very busy, really stretched the game. Was willing to drive on and look to beat Topoloy, the left-back, and try to deliver into the box and put some good balls in there as well. It was a good performance by him. McFadden had, I would say, a good first 80, and then had a couple of little hairy moments at the end. He got booked for the foul that led to that last chance for Bromley. Players just started to go in behind him a little bit. Forster was a tricky customer against him. But he did all right. He did okay going forwards as well. In midfield, I thought O'Connor was neat and decent, and I think it was just a desire to have the more driving presence of James Jones, which led to him being substituted. Young again. Lots of hard work. Lots of good touches, lots of nice movements with the ball. Had a couple of little moments conceding free kicks as well, as you would have probably wanted to avoid. But another solid performance by Luke Young and Elliot Lee. Well, elegant and classy, and played a lot of good passes that just changed the phase of play and got us forwards. He beat his man on a couple of occasions, one delicious nutmeg in the second half. And again, he's a joy to watch, isn't he? Up front, Palmer didn't have the best of games, really. I felt very sorry for him. He had a few good moments that nearly came off and didn't quite. The ball didn't stick to him very well in the second half, which was unlike him. He was a little out of sorts. Alongside him, Mullin was buzzing and full of energy and determination as ever, and scored that crucial penalty when we needed it. And then off the bench, well, I say Dalby, he looked so confident after the Coventry game. He came on and put in a 20-minute real display, linking well with Palmer, running at defenders, winning balls in the air. He was really impressive. Jones likewise. Jones had some really nice touches, some really nice moments, and linked play up nicely. McAlinden was only on for a couple of minutes of added time. I enjoyed how it looked to me like the tech end started to really appreciate Dalby. He had a little spell of play after the goal where he just linked play up beautifully with Jones down the right, and it was good to watch, and the crowd were enjoying it. And when in added time, Dalby was the selected player to take the ball to the corner flag from a throw-in, and he wasted a fair chunk of time as well, knocking off the player for the corner and repeating it. The crowd really seemed to crackle with appreciation as he was stuffing his backside into the defender to buy himself space. I think Dalby, after Saturday and Tuesday, is starting to become a little bit of a cult favourite with the Wrexham fans. So really good stuff, especially linked to the fact that Notts County dropped 2 points. But more importantly, that Wrexham had a tricky game here for all sorts of reasons and came out having won. So a very, very satisfactory evening's work all round. With the final score of Wrexham 2, Bromley 1, I'm Mark Griffiths from Wrexham AFC.